Hey everybody, what is going on? My name is Marv Gaming. Welcome back to another Modern Combat vs. Soft Launch video. Today is my overall general feedback, or not general, but my whole list of feedback, suggestions, and all that for Gameloft Montreal, so this is very directed at them. Hopefully you guys are watching. I also have a Gameloft forum link down in the description below. That is where I posted my whole script, which contains all the feedback in this video. So if you want to discuss the feedback and what I think and what you think, I would very appreciate it if we talk on the forums rather than in the comments section, just because it's a more controlled environment where the community managers look as well. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. So first off, just dear Gameloft Montreal, I hope you guys look at my feedback with a player's perspective, and I hope you take everything into account. Anyway, I also appreciate you guys taking risks, reshaping the controls, and trying to innovate, but you know, just keep in mind that I have the perspective of like a hardcore mobile gaming veteran who's been around since Asphalt Urban GT2, so keep that in mind when taking my feedback. I will have, you know, a whole video on the Dear Gameloft thing. It'll come soon, but yeah. So here's my feedback for Modern Combat Versus. I've had about 4 days and around 15 hours. Yeah, I have no life. I've played this game a lot so far in the game, so keep that in mind. And we haven't, you know, gotten into any like real competitive environment yet, but yeah. So on to the most controversial sort of place of the game, and that's the controls. So first off, the auto fire seems to be working relatively okay for the time being, but again, I really can't give solid feedback on that until we see it in action inside of a really competitive environment, not just public matchmaking where everyone has really high pings. Auto aim, however, that I feel needs to go at least in the competitive mode. Auto aim and auto fire like together seems a bit too much for us mid to hardcore players. Even for the casual players, it makes the game feel very flat. For the time being, maybe nerfing the effects of auto aim might help a bit, but we really do need to see the long-term effects first. So the next part of the controls feedback, or the last part, is more of a personal opinion. The finger tracking kind of seems unresponsive. Like going from Modern Combat 4 to Modern Combat 5, I felt MC5 had a very raw input sort of control, where Modern Combat Versus and MC4 has just this weird sort of smoothing effect. Now, it's not like a big deal or anything. Like, I can get used to it. Most people can get used to it. It's just, you know, kind of an opinion that I had. The double tap as well to do the alternate ability, like aiming down sights or bashing the shield with tower, I believe. It kind of feels the same way, where it's not very tactile. It's very weird in a sense, where number one, you can do it automatically sometimes. Like, let's say I want to move my screen around and I accidentally double tap a bit too fast, it'll activate. And also there's just, you have to do it in a certain interval, and it just doesn't feel very right. You can't really rapidly double tap either, and also the animation for aim down sights is very sluggish and very slow. And again, these are, you know, more personal preferences than, you know, overall general, you know, stuff that the community has been also asking for. So yeah, now on to general gameplay and gunplay. This is not necessarily covering individual situations, but more just, you know, general stuff. So the recharge times for the core charges are really way too fast. Like the amount you get in each section for the core charges, like you have 10 core charges at the bottom. The amount that you get for each one, like the time it takes to get one, is really it's a bit too much. And they're feeling like the grenades in MC5, where we can activate them or use them kind of whenever we want. And there's, you know, whenever we use them, we already have one left. So it's not like, you know, we need to care about when we use it. And speaking of core charges, I really do think that the core abilities should have an increase of the amount of core charges it requires. And why I feel that way is because I know the game is trying to go for a bit of a more team play Overwatch sort of thing. But if we can activate them whenever we want, there's really no incentive to work together. Because again, we can activate whenever we want, and we don't have to wait for our teammates to go. Because we can do it whenever we want. If we see one enemy, we don't have to make any thoughtful decisions. So unless it is supposed to be like that, I feel like it should be, you know, a bit more harder to get, not harder, but it should take longer to get those core abilities. And it feels, you know, far away from a game like Overwatch and more like a MOBA, like Order and Chaos, where you can activate those different abilities a lot more often. And I understand the teamwork aspect of the game, but there won't really be any teamwork if everyone can just, you know, kind of spam the core abilities whenever they want. So as for the time to kill, again, kind of a more controversial thing. I understand the way or why it is the way it is, kind of like, the Overwatch sort of thing. But I feel like the overall average health amount, especially on some assassins, should be slightly decreased, especially because of the upgrades you can do. I believe most agents have 18 or 20 levels you can upgrade. And again, I don't have most of my agents past level, let's say 5. So I think, you're getting to the point where it has, each agent has a lot of health. So yeah, I think maybe a decrease of maybe 5 to 7%, maybe even less than that. Not much, just my opinion on the time to kill. So next for the game mode, zone control. The maps work really well for the mode, but there are some camping spots that should be addressed. I won't go into detail about that there. But because you have the auto aim, again, camping is now a bigger deal than it used to be. But as for like the capture rate of the zone, so when one team captures it and the points go up to 100, the rate of accumulation is really too fast. The round ends way too early, and one possible way I think to solve this is to pause the accumulation of points when the zone is contested. That way, a team must have the control of the zone 100% before they can start to get points. Audio is also something I want to kind of touch on here. It's very important to a competitive gaming experience. Just kind of look at Counter Strike. Audio is almost everything, really. Um, so, when I'm talking about that, I'm finding it way too hard to hear enemy footsteps on the battlefield. I don't know if it's because of the music or just the overall ambient noise. An increase in these certain sounds could make a player who really pays attention much more powerful, and that's good because it encourages headphones and immersion into the game and teamwork. Because, like, you can tell your teammates, I'm listening for to footsteps or whatever, and it really brings in that whole experience as well. And it also is just good for people who are paying attention. Also, just kind of one side note sort of thing. Whenever I kill an enemy, I know it says like the plus 100 or or for an assist you get points, and for capturing a zone it'll say like plus 200. I have no idea what that is for, as it won't really progress your overall player level because the your XP level is based directly off of your agent upgrades. So I have no idea why it's there and what to do about it. I think it has something to do with the leagues, but I'm not really sure. Okay, so now that I've covered general gameplay, let's cover the agents, the individual 12 agents that were included in the soft launch. Again, these are mainly first impressions and not really set in stone opinions. As I said before, it's better to get feedback in a serious competitive environment rather than public matchmaking where everyone has like 400 pings since we're all using VPNs. So yeah, I'll go from the certain list that we had, so from left to right and then down. So let's start with Locke, the first character you get. Overall, he's an okay character. He's balanced pretty well. But since his role is an attacker, I think his damage per second should be increased 3 to 5% maybe, so that people are enticed to play him more. I feel like not many people are playing him because he's just an overall general character. Like he's not something like BBQ or somebody like Ghost. He's just kind of there, like a Modern Combat 4 player. So I think he really needs a bit of damage buff so people are enticed to play him a bit more and kind of experiment with his abilities as well. But again, overall, right now, I think he's an okay character. He doesn't need too much crazy balancing. So let's move on to Minu. Minu, I'm not sure how to pronounce her name. She's one of those characters. She's pretty balanced as well, but her super speed ability should not allow her to shoot while moving. I think because she's like an assassin, it would be more of a defensive perk. And it makes for weird combat as well when you're shooting while moving at whatever 2 to 300% speed, and it makes more it makes the the ability more offensive than defensive. But again, we'll see how it works for like a long period of time. It just kind of is weird with that that ability. Let's move on to Tower. His damage and health is okay, but a secondary ability, the bashing of his shield, has a way too high fire rate. Like with Ghost, the double tap to stab someone, I think he can only do it like once or twice per core ability. And I don't think Tower should be that way, especially because his damage does a lot when he does bash you with the shield. So yeah, I think it should be reduced in terms of like rate of fire. Also, the shield should be a bit less mobile. I feel like because he's moving around a lot. And it makes it doesn't really work well for the team because instead of maybe you're going behind him for his shield, he just goes and rushes the enemy with the shield. So I think he needs that sort of less mobility so that he can be more of a team player, and so players can get behind him and shoot through the shield. So yeah, his core ability again is a bit more offensive than I think it should be, and it should not have aim assist. That the shield thing, the bashing that he does, it has aim assist and it is very OP. You just double tap it and you let the game do its thing, and you are pretty much guaranteed to hit someone. So it should not have aim assist. All right, let's move on to Khan, another defensive person. I don't know. He needs a bit of a damage buff. I feel like if you're deciding between Tower and Khan, or even the other defenders, Khan is like, he's not very good in my opinion. You can't really kill anyone with him, and his shield doesn't do much since people can run inside the shield to kill him. So he needs a bit more of a damage output in order for him to be a good a good tide in churning the battle, because he doesn't really do much in my opinion. While the shield is okay, again, people could just run inside, and because his damage, he doesn't do a lot of damage, you could just run inside with a shotgun and just kill him. Like, there's not much point into being Khan when you can be Tower or Juke, even though Juke isn't really that good, and I'll touch on that later. So let's move on to Swift. In terms of health and damage, she's decent, but not 100% balanced. Her shotgun is okay, but the reload speed is just a no. Whenever I'm trying to decide between Swift and Ghost, I just go Ghost, because number one, Swift, the reload speed is just insane. Like, because she has 12 bullets, I have to reload all those 12 when I run out, and it's just, I don't like it, and it's something that turns me off when I want to choose the agent I want to be. And she's pretty much useless while reloading, usually. Other than that, she's pretty okay where she's at. Maybe a bit of a health buff, maybe. I'm talking, a few percentages, not much. Let's move on to Creeper. I'd say he's the most balanced character in the game. Although I would say that his ability should be 3 core charges instead of 2. Just so he's not constantly teleporting everywhere. But other than that, I think he's okay where he's at. Let's move on to Ghost. I said, he is much more powerful than Swift, but he's kind of a bit of a weird one. While I say he is kind of OP, it still does take a bit of a skill to master him. But, again, I kind of want to level him up to play with him a bit more to get solid feedback. But I do still think his core ability should cost 1 or 2 more charges than it currently does. Also, again, just like Tower, his ability, the stab ability, should not have, aim assist in it. That's just a bit ridiculous. Again, you double tap and then you let him go and then he kills someone. So yeah, Ghost, again, he's kind of overpowered, but again, we'll have to see until everyone gets him or everyone gets all agents to counter him. All right, let's move on to Colt, one of the 2 specialists in the game. His core ability should do a lot more damage over time, because currently as it is, if you step on it, it doesn't really do much. His health is okay where it's at. I wouldn't say there's much need to improve that at all. The damage he gives should have more initial damage, so like a bullet, and should have less overall damage, like the gas that he does. Like, after you shoot someone, it goes damage over time. I think it should have less of that. And also the stun sort of thing. Basically what happens is when you're getting shot by Colt, you can't move your screen. And I don't think that's okay, especially in a competitive environment when aiming is very important. I think that should be removed. So if anything, I think Colt should remove that sort of stun. I don't know, like a stun sort of thing where you can't move your screen a lot. I think that should be removed. That's not really, that doesn't fit. So yeah, let's move on to Juke. I think he's like the best defender in terms of like health. But his core ability is way too offensive. I mean, not health, but anyway. Yeah, his core ability is just, it doesn't work for a defender. Either he should keep the damage output and get rid of the stun effect, or do the opposite and get rid of the damage and keep the stun effect. The health and damage seems okay at the moment, like with his gun and his regular health, but his ability is just, it's very offensive for a defender, and it doesn't fit for him really. So at the moment, the only gold agent, like the top agent that I have, is Monarch, and a lot of people have said that his sniper does too much damage. I think instead of one set damage number, it should take from Overwatch, where when he aims down sight, it should maybe take half a second or so to charge up damage. But yeah, beside Monarch, I can tell you that Ronin, the samurai guy, he seems completely useless. I've only been killed by him 1 or 2 times, and that was when I was AFK. So yeah, he seems very useless. Again, I don't have him, but he seems very useless. And BBQ is insanely overpowered in my opinion. His damage needs to be reduced, or the rate of fire slash damage per second. He is very offensive, of course, but you can't really do much as soon as you get hit by him. Like, you're kind of screwed when you get hit by him. Or his health should be decreased, maybe? I'm not sure. Again, it's a very weird thing where we don't have many people playing at the moment, but again, BBQ does seem like he needs a bit of a nerf. Um, so as I said before, in general, agents' core abilities should cost more charges, and the refill time of said charges should be increased as well, just to encourage working together with your teammates. So let's say if I was Juke and someone else was, I don't know, let's see, Ghost. Maybe if I stun an opponent with the ability that I have, and he goes in for the kill with the stabbing, that's what I want to see in this game. But I don't see any of that because everybody can just activate their ability whenever they want. So things like that, things where combining core abilities is not encouraged at the moment. And I feel like that is a main part of the game that should be encouraged. So yeah, that's it for feedback. I really would like to thank Montreal, Gameloft Montreal, for making this game. It's really cool, and again, there is work to be done here. But it's a step forward. I think it's a good step forward, and we'll see what happens. It's a good competitive environment, and yeah. So I'd also like to thank the community for kind of not going insane over this one. I mean, obviously people were upset when they found the aim and the auto shoot, but again, we haven't gone completely insane yet. So I thank you guys, and also for sticking by my side with this game too. And yeah, so I just want to say I hope everyone has a positive outlook and attitude towards this game. The only way we can make a game good is if we all are positive and we all have good vibes about the game and really give positive feedback instead of straight complaining. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you guys in the next one. See ya.